motivate, inspire, educate. Welcome to UltraEverything.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of UltraEverything. Today I've got the pleasure and honor of actually sitting down with a buddy of mine. We've been training for the last year. We've spent a bunch of time together. In fact, I think I've spent more waking hours with him than my actual wife over the last year, which is awful to say. But anyway, it's going to be a fun time, so we're going to have a great conversation. And let me introduce you to my buddy, Mark Hecht. What's up, brother?
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Yep.
I'm super excited.
Yep.
And one of the reasons I wanted to invite you today and sit down is because we are doing something big.
We are.
In how many days?
Just over 2 weeks. 2 weeks and 2 days.
Oh, God, I'm so sick. I'm so sick.
It's getting close.
So do you want to tell everybody what we're doing?
Yeah, so we're doing the Moab 240, which is a 240-mile endurance event around Moab.
Run. We got to specify run.
Run, walk. But yes.
No, it's running. We're going to be running the whole time.
So at that distance, they don't even call it a race. They just call it kind of an endurance event. But so yeah, it's 240 miles. We have 117 hours to finish it, so just under 5 full days.
Yep.
So we'll start at noon on Friday, October 11th, and we have until Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. So we'll be moving, sleeping, eating, moving, running,
crying,
walking, crying,
whining
for almost a good 5 days.
Yeah, no, it's going to be pretty intense, and I'm super excited about it, and a little nervous. So I'm not necessarily nervous about the event. I'm nervous about all the other stuff that goes on in my life, like here. Mentally, I think I'm pretty set for this event, knowing that it's just going to suck for a while. Like, you just have to know that you've got to go through in order to finish, right?
Yeah, and definitely this is an event that you have to be all in mentally.
100%.
Right, you can't be kind
100%.
of thinking about what's going on at work or in your day-to-day life. You have to be fully present for the entirety of the duration.
So that's the event that we're talking about. But our story starts a while back. It started, when did we first meet? It was
right before COVID.
Right before COVID, that's right.
So we did a Sunday run together and just met there at a coffee shop, and we did about a 3-4 miler, and then kind of became Facebook friends, stayed connected throughout, and when I was ready to sell my house, there you were.
Yeah.
And then we kind of became friends and family friends, and
yeah.
I followed your journey when you tried Moab a few years ago.
Yeah.
Thought it sounded interesting.
Yeah, that was a rough time, but yes. So we did that, but since then we've done a bunch of stuff together. We've had some crazy ass experiences, and that's kind of what I wanted to sit down and, like, most people don't understand what it takes in order to do these big events, and a lot of people actually say, "Oh, I can never do, whatever it is." And I want you, whoever's listening today, I want you guys to know that anything is possible. And that's the great thing, is like, it's a journey, it's a process, and it takes time, it takes effort, it takes intention. You got to be very intentional about it. But you, the viewer, can accomplish anything you guys put your mind to. And I think that's the most important message that I hope you guys get out of today's conversation, because, although Mark's a special person, and to some people I may be, but we're not special in a sense that we're unique in the sense that we can go out and do this just because we have some kind of crazy physical capabilities or anything. Because we're both, older dudes. You're in your 50s. I'm way far away from my 50s, like really far, like 3 months away. So, like, it doesn't take anything, but it takes intention, it takes work, and it takes, setting big goals, for sure.
Well, I really didn't start running until I was about 38 or so, and I did my first half marathon with my current wife, and we signed up about a week or so before the race, half marathon, thinking I was going to walk the whole thing, and we kind of jogged very slowly, but we jogged, and it was amazing. The finish line was amazing, and I realized at that point, too, I'd never run more than 5-6 miles, and we finished the entire half marathon. So at that point was, you can do anything your mind that you set your mind to.
Yeah.
So, and then I think that's great. Let's just start training for the next one. So I really haven't been training too long, but yeah, that's kind of when I thought it's all about the mindset, and you can really suffer through it if you really want to.
And I think it's about setting. It's almost like a video game where you have levels, right? There's all these new levels, and you unlock these levels by going through. And it's the craziest thing is, like, once you do something, whatever it is. Let's just say you're excited and you want to start running, and your first event's going to be a 5K. once you accomplish that 5K, it's unlocked that next level to that 10K. And then from the 10K, it opens up a new opportunity because it becomes your new norm, right? If it does, like you're like, holy crap, I never thought I could do this, but now I know I can do this. And then you go out and try something new.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So what was your first ultra running race?
I did a 50-mile run. It was down in Texas called Rocky 50. Actually, my brother and I signed up for it together. Unfortunately, he passed away before he got to race it, but we raced and ran in his honor.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my first introduction. It was very flat, great weather, perfect to kind of ease into the longer distance. But that was really my first ultra and my first kind of long distance running event.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's the cool thing is like everyone, like they see me and they hear the stuff that we're doing now, and they're like, oh, I could never do that. But they don't know how it was when we started. And it's kind of funny because, 2017, on June 12th, 2017, I know the date exactly, is the day that I decided to stop being lazy, stop sitting on the couch, and really focus on, being able to have some kind of ability to play with my kids at that time. And I didn't know what it was, but I got inspired by a friend. I was on Facebook, and I got inspired. They just had done a Spartan race. And a Spartan race is one of these obstacle course races. And the obstacle course, it's a running event, but they have obstacle courses to do. So I saw that, and we were having a birthday party for my daughter, and some friends came over, and I was inspired, and I was like, like anything else, I was excited. I was like, hey, I'm gonna do a Spartan. And I was like, do you guys wanna do it with me? One buddy says, hell no, I'll drink a beer and watch you guys and give you high fives. And the other one, I was like, sure, I'll do it. Like, what is it? And so I explained what it was. And the first one that said he'd have a beer definitely said, I'm not going to do it after I told him what it was. And the other one was excited. And he actually went home and he signed up before I did. Like, I didn't even have an opportunity to go sign up. I just said I wanted to do it. Then he sent me a text. He's like, hey, I know that you said you wanted to do the Ultra Beast. That was the biggest race they had.
Yep.
So I went from zero, like I'm not doing anything. Like I can't even go running. And in like 3 months' time, I was going to sign up for this Ultra Beast, which was an ultra marathon with obstacle course. And so, I'm glad that he was actually smarter than I, because he went home and he's like, we're not going to do the Ultra, but we'll do the Beast, which is like a half marathon distance. He's like, I signed up for that one. Here's the team. Sign up under this. So he actually did it, pushed me, right?
Yeah.
And I signed up for that. And that afternoon or evening, I went for my first run from my house. And I went probably maybe half a mile, and I was dying. I was just like, what the hell did I just do? Like, I said I was going to do this, and now it's like I can't breathe. I'm like, it's like the worst thing ever. But I had said it, and to me, when I say something, that's my bond. Like that, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to do this. And so I went back, and I went back again, and again, and again. And before you knew it, 3 months came by and we did the Beast.
When I think to your point, I mean, we all start at different places. I started running from my house. I had a loop when I lived in San Antonio that was 2.5 miles. And I could not run the whole thing. I was walking half of it.
Yeah.
Right? And I did that just constantly. And then I started, doing 3 miles and then 4 miles. And, I started doing kind of half marathons and then started doing longer distance stuff, gradually got into triathlons. You just kind of build up momentum.
Sure.
Right? Because we're all starting from a different place. And you gradually you can overcome, okay, I could do that. Now what's next? Now what can I do next?
Yeah.
After the half marathon, or maybe marathons, then triathlons or whatever else it is.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is people just need to start. And, when you start something new, and I think this is, I think everybody sees people where they are today, and they look at them and they say, oh, I could never do this. But everybody had a first day.
Yep.
Everybody had a beginning. And most people, when they start something, they suck at it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the hardest thing for kids and stuff to understand. It's like, hey, when you go out and try something, you're going to suck. It's okay. Yeah. You're not going to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you do it enough times and you keep coming back and you don't quit, you get good at something, and over time you get better and you get better and you get better, and then you can accomplish this crazy stuff.
Yeah, I remember one run specifically when I was in Texas, and the lady passed me and she's like, oh, you look so easy and nice and smooth. But she doesn't see the hard work that I've done. She doesn't see that I've been running 5 to 7 days a week for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? She just looks in that moment and then compares herself
Sure.
and says, oh, well, I can't do that but you don't see all that hard work that it took to get there.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like I really wish that people could actually see where I began. I know that sometimes where I'm at now, I might be a little intimidating to some, like when I invite people to my gym, for example, or different things, because I'm at a different level than I was when I first started. And I wish that they could actually see who I was when I first started, because I was that scared dude that just didn't know and didn't have the confidence and didn't feel good. But you kind of push, and yeah, it's hard. It never gets easy. You just push a little bit harder each time.
Yeah.
But I wish that people could actually see what it's like when you first start, because then they'll give everybody a little bit more confidence that they're too are at the very beginning of their race and of their journey, versus like, you know, I'm 7 years into this now. So 7 years every single day, you know, versus somebody starting on first day. Like, yeah, don't compare yourself to anyone.
I love the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. Right?
It's true.
It's about yourself getting better and improving yourself, and not really kind of comparing yourself to anybody else.
Yeah.
It's how can I get better every single day and improve along the way, and challenge myself in kind of different ways throughout my journey. Because your journey is going to be different than mine, and everyone else's journeys out there is different, right? And you really can't compare it. They're all starting from a different place. We're all in a different place from a mindset, from a physical perspective, right? Just start wherever you are and make progress against where you were yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to our journey here. So I was like, hey, I want to do this race, the Moab 240. And you're like, I've been thinking about that, and I'd like to do that too. I'm not ready. And I said, hey, let's go volunteer. The race, this was last year, right?
Yep.
Last October.
Yep.
And I said, hey, let's go volunteer and go check it out. And you're like, okay, cool. So we had a great time volunteering.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing.
And the whole time you were on the fence. I was like, hey, they're like, oh, you're going to do it? I was like, yeah, we're going to do it next year. He's like, I haven't committed yet. I'm just looking at it. And I was like, just commit. He's like, nah, I'm not sure yet. And through that process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you and I definitely have a different mindset. I've got to be kind of more mentally ready for stuff. You kind of jump in with both feet, right? Face, head first into the deep end. I'm a little bit more analytical. It takes me longer to get there. But yeah, I was going in with it. Let's just check it out. Let's see what happens. Maybe I'm interested, but maybe. Definitely was not interested for this year. I was really kind of anticipating 2025.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once I kind of saw that, I got the sense of the community, the racers, just the energy around Moab and around that race was just amazing. So it's definitely something I wanted to take on at that point. It kind of helped me, push me over the edge to sign up.
Yeah, you always hear about people when they set a goal, and it's so funny because you set a goal many times we set a goal when it's comfortable. We're like, oh, I want to do this. And you talk about it, and in your mind you sell yourself on this amazing experience that we're going to have. And can you imagine running through Moab and like all these things that most people aren't going to see? And then all of a sudden, the reality comes, and we're like you said, just a couple weeks away, basically just over a couple weeks. And now the reality hits. You're like, oh shit, I said I was going to do that. And then we're looking at weather reports, and we're like, oh, it's going to be cold at night, or it's going to be hot, or whatever the is, right? And you start psyching yourself out a little bit because you're like, oh shit, I'm not going to sleep for 5 days.
Yeah. Well, and I guess when I go into those kind of events too, I can't try to wrap my head around the entirety of the event.
Sure.
Like we started training earlier this year. I've put on more miles this year than I ever.
Yeah.
have
How many
before.
miles have you ran this year?
It'll be 1,500 miles as of tomorrow. I'm very close.
That's awesome.
And my record was 1,300, just over 1,300 last year. So I've already passed more than almost 200 more miles, and I still have quite a ways to go.
Yeah.
But when you think about the totality of the training, a 20 to 24 to 30 week training program, I've got to consume it in kind of smaller chunks. I can't think of the entirety, and you get overwhelmed very quickly of, oh my God, we're going to have to, it's 5 days, 240 miles. I just need to start moving.
Yeah.
Right? I just need to start moving, be there, be present in the moment, and just not stop. Really, so if I think about the bigness of the event too much,
sure,
it definitely psychs me out a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm a little bit different. My philosophy in life has always been commit first, figure out later, and that served me pretty well. But it's also gotten me in a lot of trouble. It's like, shit, I don't want to do this. Like, why did I say I was going to do it? But I said it, and I'm going to do it. So there you go. And that's the thing that I always go. And I don't necessarily look at all the detail. I'm not a details guy. If anybody in this room knows that, I'm not a detail person. But I'm a big picture guy, and I like see this, and I'm like, all right, I got to get here. How am I going to do it? And I get myself so caught up in my mind, like how big it is, and I'm like, okay, I just got to go do this stuff. And sometimes it bites me in the ass, and my wife has been telling me, she's like, yeah, you can maybe do that for a 50K, a 50 miler, a 100K, a 100 miler. She's like, but Thomas, this is 240 miles. And I think she told me that this morning. And I was like, yeah, no, I understand. I said, I know it's 240. I said, I think the biggest thing is I know when it gets hard, I just have to keep going. Like, you just have to know in your mind that it's going to be hard, it's going to suck, I'm going to be cold, I'm going to be tired, all these things. And going into it, and I think it's Hermosi, if anybody knows who Alex Hermosi is, he's like, this is what hard is. This is what you signed up for. You knew it was going to be hard, and you signed up for it, so you just got to get through it.
Yep.
And when you go through those events and you start doing that, you're like, okay, this is going to suck. So, in 2020, I attempted the 240, and there's a lot of things that I did wrong. Number one is I went into it, I believe, dehydrated. I went in as a deficit, and you never catch up on these races. Yep. And by the time I got to mile 40, which was base camp aid station, dude, I was like super dehydrated. I had an elevated heart rate. Like it sucked. So I was at that aid station for 4 hours, just kind of drinking electrolytes, just kind of getting back to it. And then I had to take off. And by the time I got to, I think it was Indian Creek, my knee was like, it sounded like a bag of potato chips, just super crunchy. And I couldn't go anymore. And I'm limping around, and my wife met me there, and it was in the morning. And she's like, you don't look so good. I was like, I'll be all right. And she's like, I don't think you will be. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So she's like, you didn't come here to die. You came here to finish. And I was like, that's true. She's like, so, we'll do it again. And now this in 2 weeks is again. So.
Yep. And we put in a lot of work, and I think we've we've done as much as we can. Now time will tell if it's enough.
Yeah. I think it's
physical, and from a mental perspective too. We know it's going to suck. We know it's going to be hard, right?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple weeks ago, we did a. So he has the funny thing is, this is not funny because a lot of you guys are athletes, and and you make plans, and you're smart. I'm not. I'm not smart. I'm ambitious, but I never claimed to be smart. I'm ambitious. There's a difference. But Mark has a very specific training plan. And I'm like, so what are we doing today? Basically, what are we doing this week, Mark? And he sends me a text. He's like, this is what you need to do, Tom. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'll kind of follow the plan. And he's like, this is going to be a big week. We're doing a 62-mile run, which is, for everyone else, this is 100K on a Saturday. I was like, okay, what time are we meeting? 4 o'clock. I was like, I think we should start at 2 in the morning. He's like, no, we're going to start at 4 o'clock because he actually made a plan so that his wife could meet us with burritos. Yep. I was like, if we went at your plan, Tom, we wouldn't get burritos, and it would be just a giant pain in the ass. So he has a plan. We follow the plan, and at mile 17, we got burritos, and it worked out. And
And then mile 41, she brought us.
Mile 41, she shout out to Jen. She brought us Five Guys burgers. And Nikki and Amanda were there, my wife and my daughter.
M&Ms.
And M&Ms, and I had a big double cheeseburger.
Yep.
2 Cokes, a bag of M&Ms, and then we had 22 miles still to go.
Yep. I mean, it was a really good training day, and I think gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
That you need that kind of along the way because you're not
for sure.
20 weeks of training, you're not always feeling great, you're not always feeling kind of fresh. So, that was a great way to help build confidence and seeing if we can really get through that.
Yeah, it really helped me understand who you are as a person because you were mean. You were mean. Like you just, the whole time, I'm whining and you don't let me whine.
You can get a little whiny on the trails.
Well, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So Mark, I thought you got so pissed at me. So we're up on top on Sandia Crest Trail. I'm a little ways in front of him, and I pull off the trail, and he's coming up. And you're coming up, and there's the I'm hiding behind the tree, and Mark, you have this weird fear of being attacked by bears, mountain lions, and snakes.
Well, we've seen lots of snakes. We saw lots of fresh scat that day on top of the mountains. And later, when we looked at Facebook, there was literally bear sightings up there
And
a mountain lion
lion.
sighting. So yes, it's justified up in the mountains.
So I'm up in front, and I hide behind a fairly large tree. And here Mark comes, he's running. And I jump out of the tree, I'm like, "Roar!" And he's like, he jumps off the trail. You were so pissed, dude. You were so angry for a while.
Yeah, I was not happy.
You were not happy.
And a small 30, 35-ish.
And I'm just laughing my ass off, and you're like, I hate you. I can't believe I signed up to be with you for 5 days straight. Like, this is going to suck. But it was fun.
We've got a lot of togetherness over the last several months.
How many times have we almost died so far? Okay, maybe not.
Well, even on that 62 miler, we got hit by hail in the Sandias.
Hail and
lightning.
lightning.
In Bandito. Yeah, not to mention the whole Jemez trail race. That was a mess
so scary.
Up there. That was the worst I think at least I've ever been in.
Yeah.
In the middle of a race.
So
we were hunkered down for about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 15, 20. Hail, snow, ice, and we still had a long ways to go for the next aid station. We were underdressed and cold, and then you started kind of sloshing through the
awful.
The water and the mud and
it was
the ice
awful.
at that point.
It's horrible. And it's the funny thing is like you just know that you have to go. Like you hear about people like getting hypothermia up in the mountains, and we were out in the mountains, in the open.
Yep.
Massive hailstorm and lightning storm. I was actually super afraid of the lightning. Like I'm just sitting there, and I have a video of me I was like, well, send a message to the family before I die. And I'm like, this is so stupid. And it's like lightning all around. It's like crashing around us. And I'm like, oh my God, we are gonna, this is the dumbest thing. And of course I have carbon fiber poles, trekking poles, and you have aluminum. So I'm like, well, if lightning's gonna strike, it's gonna hit him.
Well, we were also hiding under trees on top of a ridge. So there wasn't a whole lot of places to take shelter there. So.
Yeah, for sure. But we got through it. And we actually helped some other runners get through it that were actually in more duress than we were. Actually, mild hypothermia, and we got through it, and it makes a great story now.
Yep. And literally, you just got to keep moving.
You got to keep moving.
You're not going to get rescued at that point out in the middle of the trail. Right?
And I think that's the lesson, right? Like you learn these things by doing, and so knowing that when we did our 62. And the hail came down, and we're kind of like hunkering down a little bit. It's like it's not passing. We just got to get through it. Like let's just go.
Yeah.
Because that's where you actually have the problem is if you get cold, because you're already out there and you get cold and you're not moving. So you got to keep moving forward to get closer to that end point.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think that's going to be one of the big things that's going to help us in the Moab is like being in those really tough situations, because the weather out there is crazy. Because when I did it in 2020, it was unseasonably warm. Yeah. The year before it, they had snow, and a bunch of runners were dropping out because it was freaking miserably cold. So knowing that, it's like making sure that we have the right gear. Yeah. What's the number one thing we learned with rain? It's like put your weatherproof stuff on, get covered up, stay dry.
After the incident in Jemez, I had to go buy new stuff, right? And then when we went in the Sandias and we got the hill, I didn't put my raincoat on quickly enough, so I was already soaked by that point, then put it on. So I should have put that on sooner. So you learn kind of small things here and there throughout the race. But yeah, Moab's going to be interesting because it's even when we spectated and volunteered last year, it was hot and warm in the desert and then very cold in the mountains. It was getting around 30-ish or so when we left there at like the aid station, like 7 o'clock. So it's going to be even colder than that.
So what's the elevation gain for Moab?
33,000 feet.
So total elevation change is like over 60,000 feet of elevation change.
Yep. We go up to 2 separate mountain ranges.
Yeah, so for you guys watching, Mount Everest is how many feet?
I have no idea.
29,000? Yeah, so we're going to be climbing and descending the equivalent of Mount Everest.
Over 5 days.
Over 5 days and 240 miles through the desert.
Yep.
Like a bunch of, I don't know what we are.
Yeah. When you say it like that, it scares me a little bit.
But that's the reality. Yeah, that's the reality, right? You know what scares me actually about this race? Is at night, being in the woods at night.
Yeah.
Like running through, like, okay, so I'm a kid. I'm afraid of the dark, to be honest.
Yeah, that was my big. When I did my first 100-miler, I was extremely. That was the biggest fear I had was. So I had to research headlamps, which one's the best, the brightest, going to get me through. I had to practice with it to make sure it works. So at the end of the day, it wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting. But yeah, there's some very narrow trails.
Yep.
There's some steep stuff in the middle of the night, and when you're tired at the end of day 3, day 4, when you haven't had a whole lot of sleep. That's when it gets a little sketchy for me.
The hard part is actually lifting your legs and not like you tripping over rocks, kicking roots.
You kick rocks a lot, yes.
Not as much as you. I kick roots. I almost fell 4 times last up in last weekend, the weekend before last.
Yep.
Yeah, my legs were super heavy. I think a lot of that has to do with. And I was talking to Alicia Martinez. She's the one that helps me. She was doing some dry needling, and she helps me through it. But blood flow, I was telling her that my legs were feeling super heavy and they were super tight. So she's like, well, the tightness is actually restricting blood flow in certain areas, so that's why you're getting heavy legs. So one of the things that I'm doing now is obviously getting more massage, doing that stuff kind of leading up to it. But need to really work on that blood flow so I don't have the heavy leg syndrome, because they do get heavy.
Yep. And bring foam rollers for the crew so we can do some of that while we're at aid stations and stuff.
Yeah.
Stretching.
It's gonna be an experience. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great thing. And I think one of the things that I love most about my memory of being in the Moab the first time is I took what we call a trail nap. And for those of you guys that don't know ultra marathons, there's these things called trail naps. And what it is when you're tired, you stop and you take a little nap on the trail. It's not ideal, but it's better than falling off the trail or falling asleep or hurting yourself. So you take a little trail nap. So I took one on Moab, middle of the night, in the middle of the desert, no lights anywhere. There's no light pollution. And I just remember laying there in the dirt, man, and it was just like, not only did it feel so good just to lay down because I was so tired, but just this canopy of stars. It was the most amazing thing. And I was like, you know what? Out of all the people that I know in my life, all my friends back home, everything else, like I'm experiencing this most amazing thing that I can actually now, 4 years later, I can still go back there in my mind and remember how amazing that was. And that's what I'm really about. Like what I want to do is I want to have these moments and these memories that I'm building. And Jesse Itzler, if anybody knows who that is, Jesse talks about building your life's resume. Yeah. And so many times in the world, we try to build our resume of what we do for work, but what do you do for your life? Like what are you building? Yeah. And building that is like absolutely amazing. So
my wife and I talk a lot about experiences.
Yeah.
Right, about not spending money on kind of just the things that make you happy. It's the experiences that you're going to remember for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
But to your point, that's one of the things I love about doing ultra marathons and about being out there in nature is you're experiencing things that most people have never seen before.
Yep.
And you're doing it, all types of sunrise and sunset in the middle of the night, and it's just an amazing experience to me.
Super rewarding.
Just being out there and experience things. Just running through the Grand Canyon too, doing rim to rims and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that was awesome.
Which you've done too. Is most people see it from the sitting up there, the comfort of their car, or overlooking the scenic overlook. They're not running down it, and you get such a different perspective and a different point of view, and you feel the vastness of those types of things when you're actually in the moment of it and in that versus kind of looking down on it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like for me, being an entrepreneur, when you first start out, you start thinking about now everyone's talking about the money that you make here, and they show their cars on Instagram and all these other things, and everybody's excited about the things. But I think as you get a little older, you start looking at it, you're like, it's not the things that make you happy in life. It's these things that you've done that make you happy. The experience that you have, knowing that you came out of the other side, and these stories that you have and these memories and the people that you do it with and just challenges in general is absolutely amazing. And it's one of those things that fulfills me, knowing that I can go out and accomplish these things. And you said the other day, you're like, how many people do you know on a whim can go run a 50K? Yeah. It may not be fast, it may not be pretty, but you can go out and run 34. We did 34 miles last weekend or Friday night. And to know that you can go do something like that is absolutely freaking it builds a lot of confidence in a lot of things you do, how you carry yourself, how you act in all aspects of your life, the amount of confidence that you have to be able to accomplish these things. It's like, that's kind of cool.
Yep.
So
And a lot of training with your body and a lot of training with your mental attitude. And I think when I started, my goal was to be able to do a half marathon on a whim.
Sure.
Right? And then it just kind of builds over time.
So one of the things I enjoy doing is I don't necessarily know if I enjoy doing it. I do it. I put myself in like hard situations, like difficult, painful situations on purpose. Just, I think it gives me like this comparison.
Yeah.
And so this morning, so we do a cold plunge every morning.
Yep.
And this morning, I didn't want to get in the cold plunge. And my wife had to go to work, and we were kind of like up a little bit late, or up a little later than we were normally. So in my mind, I had said, oh, she's going to have to get going. So I want to spend a little bit of time with her and have a conversation with her. So I'll miss the cold plunge. And I was like, in my mind, I had sold myself that I don't have to do the cold plunge because there's no time. And I was using that as an excuse. Like, I want to spend more time with her so I can actually forego this today, and it's not a big deal. And so I walk outside, and she had just gotten out, and I walked out with I had started the coffee machine, so she had heard the coffee brewing, and she's like, "You're not gonna do the cold plunge?" She's like, "No, I'm not gonna do it today." She's like, "Oh, and she just kind of said it like that, and so I was like, "Oh shit." So I walked over and I got in, and I'm just like sitting there, all like, I was like, "Okay, fine, I'm gonna do this," but it's like. But we do that in every, like as humans, you do that because you seek comfort, right? Like, we really do. Like, you try to avoid discomfort as much as you possibly can. And that's a perfect example of the cold plunge, because it sucks. It's, it's probably 38 to 40 degrees. It's dark, and right now it's getting cold outside, so you go outside and it's already cold, and then you're gonna get in more cold. And it's just kind of like mentally, it just sucks, and you're seeking comfort, and you want to have comfort, and you want to enjoy your morning. And although that's just a few minutes of your life, which is a blip in the span of your life, but it does something. Like, it really does something to you where you say, hey, I was able to do this, so I can do this, and this the rest of the day.
When it's building in habits too, those good habits. Like, I went on my run today, and I didn't really want to run. But once I got out there, I felt great.
Yeah.
But it's on my plan. I got to go do it, right?
Yeah.
There's not a decision really to make
Yeah.
about, am I going to go run or not? It's just, it's on my plan. It's what I've got to do.
Signed up
right?
for.
So it's just kind of part of your day, and you just build that in, not as an optional thing, right? I've got to go to work. I've got to have my cup of coffee, and I've got to go for my run.
Yeah.
Right? Not optional.
Yeah. So how far did you go this morning?
5 miles.
Nice. I did the air.
How far did you go today?
I haven't gone anywhere
Okay,
yet. I did the airdyne.
You still got time.
I do have time. But what I've been trying to do is rehabilitate my ankle a little bit, just because my biggest worry for the Moab race is ankle. Has been giving me an issue, as you know.
Yep.
And blisters. And I think I've solved the blister issue for the most part. It's not as bad. But the ankle issue has been still an issue. So I've been kind of taking it a little bit easier. And I was like, well, I still need to do the cardio. So I did the airdyne for less impact. But yeah, I need to be on the feet still for a while.
Yeah. The biggest part now, 2 weeks out, is just getting your body healthy.
Yeah, so I was talking to Nikki today, and we were talking about the race, and I said, as long as we're healthy, we're going to get through it. And I said, just for the sheer will of not being made fun of by the other person. She's like, what? And I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I was like, as long as we're healthy, it doesn't matter how sucky it's going to be. Like, we just both know that we have to finish it, because if for some reason if Mark drops because it's hard, he's never gonna hear the end of it from me. And if I drop because it's hard, I'm never gonna hear it. It's like, neither of us want to hear that. So it's like, that's the motivator. It's
Absolutely.
Like, as long as we're healthy,
100%.
we're making it. We're making it. Like, we're doing this.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
because I don't need that kind of pressure of you making fun of me.
I know. I've got enough to make fun of.
You're kind of a jerk.
Not to add that
no,
too.
You're kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need you adding more stuff to your to your.
But that's good peer pressure, right? There's some negative peer pressure out there. That's a good one, right? To
Oh,
challenge
100%.
and push each other, right?
Yeah.
And we doing it together, and we'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. So earlier today, I was at an event, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had been working out a bit, and I went to him. I said, hey, you still working out? And he's like, oh no. And I said, what happened? He's like, well, I finished the challenge. And I was like, so set a new challenge. And it kind of made me think about that in general, how people are, how we all are, is when we have a challenge or we have something that on the calendar that we push for, right? Mm-hmm. But what happens when we don't have something on the calendar? Why are we less inclined to push ourselves? And we've had this conversation before, right? We have to have stuff on the calendar in order to keep pushing. But why do you think that happens? Why do you think that humans are like that? Like if it's not on the schedule or it's not on the calendar, like I don't need to go do it anymore.
I think a lot of it is just internal motivation and maybe just not being kind of pushed to get better. Or it's a one-time event, start and end date, and I'm done, and now I can move on to something else. But really, I think in being physical and being active, to me, that's a lifelong thing. It can evolve over time from running 5Ks to triathlons to endurance events to whatever that is, and it may look different where you are. It may look like more strength training, it may look like more running, but to me, if you've at least got the mentality of, okay, I want to be healthy when I'm old or when I'm retired, right? I look at my mom at 71 and she's still hiking 2-3 times a week. She takes trips out to the Pecos by herself and all kinds of stuff, and I want to do that when I retire. All right, I want to be active. I don't want to be kind of bedridden or just having to watch TV all the time because I can't get out of the house. I want to be healthy. So that may look different so my goal may change in the moment and what my event is going to be, right? From a marathon to a ultra to a whatever it looks like next year or the year after. But the overall goal of being active and being healthy and being able to travel to see my kids and being able to get out of the house when I'm retired, that to me fundamentally doesn't change the core and the foundation of what I want to accomplish.
And the crazy thing is you're really, really old. And
I am.
And for you to be able to do what you do, you're a grandparent.
I am.
You're
with
old.
The second one on the way.
And you're old.
Yes.
Did I say that? I don't know if I said that, but you're old. No, but the things that you can do, and it's so funny because, I've said this at my gym before. I'm like, oh my God, if I'm healthy and I'm in shape and I hurt this much because I'm pushing myself, I was like, could you imagine not being in shape and just being in pain?
Yeah.
And I think that's the reality. And it's like, guys, if you don't make the decision now, it's gonna suck. I don't care who you are. If you are starting to work out for the first time or anything, it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna be all those things. But the alternative is you're gonna have pain, suffering, and everything else, and you're gonna be, 55, 60, 70 years old in awful shape, and you're gonna have to go out and you're not gonna have the option. And it's just the way life is, right? Yep. So you have to make the decision today. And I made my decision at 42. That was my midlife crisis, I always tell people, is when I made the decision on June 12th of 2017. I was 42 years old, and I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I had to make a decision, and I made the decision. And yeah, it sucks. Some days I freaking limp around the house because I went and did something, that maybe is dumb to a lot of people, but it's stuff that we do, and I limp around the house and I push myself a little too hard. But I'm going to get better. Like in a couple days, I'm not going to be limping because I'm not going to be sore, versus the alternative of limping around the house because, I'm obese or overweight, or I have, whatever it is, fill in the blank. So my challenge to everyone watching this video is start doing something. I don't care what it is. And I've said this so many times. It's like, go for a walk. I don't care. Like, go for a walk. And when you feel good about the walk, run a little bit. And if you can't do that, just do anything. Like my mom and dad are 80. I'm not gonna tell how old they are because my mom gets mad. But anyway, they're in their 80s. And I was sitting there the other day and I was telling them, she's like, oh, well, this hurts and this hurts. I was like, but you need to move, because the only thing that's gonna help you to get to, if you live to 90s and 100 or past that, is being physically strong. So I gave her some exercises to do, and it's like, you don't have to go outside to do it. You can sit right here in this chair, and you can do sit and stand squats. You can do isometric movements. You can do a lot of things. You just got to get moving.
Yeah, there's I mean, there's so many different exercise plans and exercise programs and weight training, and there's so many of this and that. And
The best one
cardio.
is the one that you do.
It doesn't matter what you do.
As long as you start.
As long as you do something,
Yeah.
anything's going to work. If you enjoy it, if it speaks to you, if you build that into your daily habits,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it is, it's going to work. It's just building that into your habits and making that a part of your day. I hear so many people who say, there's no way I could ever train for that, or no way I could ever do that. Yes, you can.
You may not want to.
If you, yeah, it's though, do you want to or not? But everyone has time,
Yeah.
right? I'm not nearly as busy as you in my day-to-day kind of work life. I work from home and I have a little slightly different schedule, but you make it a habit, right? You're going to make time for whatever is important to you and whatever you prioritize. For some people, it's watching TV for 2-3 hours at night when they get home.
Yeah.
You could make it 30 minutes on the bike, or going out for a walk with your dog. If you're going to prioritize it and make it you're going to be able to make time for it.
One of the funniest, well, I don't know, sort of funny excuse, but when I talk to people and they're like, I just don't have time, I'm like, okay. I know I'm a busy person, and I make a priority for it. I don't necessarily sit and watch TV. I don't know the latest shows. I don't watch shows, but I've made my decision to not do that because I want to accomplish these other things. Now, do I watch TV once in a while? Yeah, of course. I usually fall asleep to it more than anything. It's like I'll turn it on. I'm like, I have every intention of like, oh, now I'm going to relax, and then it's like, passed out. But the reality is you're going to have to give something up.
Yep.
It's either you give up your health for a show, or you give up the show for your health. Yep. But something has to give. You have to make that priority, and you may not be at that position where you want to do it, right? You may not be, and I've talked to a lot of people that are, that are alcoholics, and a friend of mine who was an alcoholic or is, I asked another friend, and I said, hey, what can I do for him? And they said, until they're ready to make the change, the best thing you can do for that person is give them a ride to the bar. And the reality is unless you're ready to make that commitment, that change, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do what it takes.
It's not going to be sustainable.
It's not.
Right? They're not going to build it into their habits. They're not going to build it in their life.
Well, that's why I hadn't done it. And I was 42 years old when I decided. I finally got to the point where I was just sick of not being in shape. I was sick of remembering of what I once was. I have a picture of me when I was 18 years old in Mexico, and I have the six-pack abs, and I remember telling everybody how I had a six-pack, and they're
you
like,
still tell everybody,
and I still do.
Yep.
But the funny thing about it is I was living in the past of what I used to be, and then people look at you and they're like, well, that's not you anymore, Tom, and it wasn't, and it's like you got to get to a point where you're just done. And you have to make the commitment, and you're like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
Well, I think going back to something I mentioned earlier about improving yourself day to day, right? I was much faster when I was younger.
Sure, of course.
4, 5, 6 years ago, I was much faster in my races.
Now you're very, very old.
Now I'm very old and so slow, but I can do different things. My goals have changed, so my goals are no longer mostly about speed, but I'm not trying to live in the past, to your point, and I'm not trying to compare myself to where I was.
Sure.
4, 5, 6 years ago. I'm comparing myself to where I was yesterday, right? And I'm getting better incrementally.
Yeah.
Because if I start to do that, I'm gonna lose motivation. I'm gonna kind of start kind of thinking maybe more negatively about myself.
Yeah.
So it's really about where was I yesterday and where am I going to be today?
Well, I think to a certain degree, we're competitive, right? But we're competitive in reality too. So, sometimes we'll go run, and then all of a sudden you'll lie to me and tell me that we're closer than we are, and then you take off running, and then we're doing a sprint to the finish, and then you're like, oh shit, it is actually farther than I thought.
Yeah.
There's those times.
Yeah.
But there's also those times, and I think friendly competition is absolutely good. And we talk at my gym. We talk a lot of shit with each other, which is fun. But at the end of the day, we're all pushing and cheering people on, and we want to see the best and becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that is. But just always push yourself.
Yep.
Why not? What do you have to lose? Okay, you're gonna be tired. Yeah, you're gonna be tired. You're gonna sweat. You're gonna be uncomfortable for a little bit. But so what? Who cares?
Yeah. And I think that's part of the joy in what I find in these events too is pushing yourself. See, how far can I push myself? How far can I go? How can I get better? And how can I keep going? Right?
Did I ever tell you the story?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But I was doing the a Santa Fe endurance race. It was a 50 miler up in Santa Fe, and there's like 22 participants in this entire race, and I went up by myself, so my wife wasn't there to watch. And it starts at the Santa Fe at the ski area. Anyway, the day before the race, I took the day off. It was like a Saturday morning, and it started at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had a 4 o'clock start, and so it's like Friday, and I was like, I'm gonna like take the day off and just spend some time. And I went to lunch with my wife at Campo over at Los Poblanos, and they had a chicharrón and red chili burrito, which is really good.
Yeah, but not the day before the race.
The day before the race, and not trying something that could upset your stomach the day before the race. Anyway, long story short, and this is where it gets kind of awful. We go up that night, and I'm going to go sleep so I could get up early. So I ride up, and I have a Jeep Wrangler, and I put a little bed in there. So it's not a lot of room, but I get up there, oh, dude, and my stomach starts rumbling, like turning. And I'm, in the back of the Jeep at this thing, and it just like had a horrible. I didn't sleep at all. Yeah. And now, it's like 3:30 in the morning, and I get up, and I'm like, oh God. So now I'm dehydrated, and the race starts at 4 o'clock. So I'm dehydrated, didn't sleep, and I got 50 miles to go run. Anyway, long story short, it was probably somewhere in the mark 30 something miles. I think it was actually. It was like 34. And we're at high elevation, so it's probably 8,000 feet up. Not a soul in sight. I'm out there. I run out of water. I have no idea because I didn't set my watch to see how far I had to go. So I didn't know how far I had to go. I had no water. I start getting delirious. I have no nutrition. I went into this at a deficit with dehydrated, and there's no cell phone signal out there. And so I send a text. I'm trying to send a text out to Nikki, my wife, and I send a text, and I start it, but I never finish it. But I sent it, and the text went out to her wherever I was at. It finally got to her, and it sent the text out, and it says simply, "I need help." So my wife gets a text. I'm in Santa Fe. She has no idea where I'm at. A couple of our businesses are going crazy. Here, so she's dealing with this crap. She's dealing with a business. She's dealing with all these issues, and then the kids. And she gets a text message, "I need help." My poor wife, and she can't get a hold of me. She has no idea what's going on. She then drops everything. She's obviously, she's not panicked, but she's concerned. She calls my sister and tells my sister, and she says, "This is the text I got from Thomas." And she's like, "I'll go with you." So they go up together to go recover the body, maybe at
wherever
this point.
You are,
wherever I'm at, recover the body. Maybe he's alive, maybe he's not. Anyway, I get to getting closer to the aid station, and some people were hiking, and they actually gave me water. They had water, and they gave me nutrition, and now I'm at this aid station. I got to the aid station. I'm alive, and I'm just sitting there, God, I'm not gonna finish this race. And everyone's all the DNFs are there waiting for the bus to take you back because they're the ones that aren't gonna make it. And I was I just couldn't do it. In my mind, I was I can't do this. So I go up to the guy and I was can I still finish this? He's like, "Yeah, you can still finish it." And I was like, "Okay, I want to do that." He's like, "You sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do it." So I actually have cell phone signal, and at that time I called my wife. I was like, "I'm alive, everything's good, but I'm going to finish the race." And she's like, "Oh my God, you're such an idiot." So I ended up finishing, and that was the best shirt I've ever had. It's I almost died. I got to race with a how do you say the name? Taramari, Indian.
Yeah.
From the Copper Canyon. So. Yeah, I got a picture with them. It was the best experience ever, and it's I didn't die, and but my poor wife, man, the shit she's had to deal with, the commitment that she has made is probably just as much as the commitment I've made, because it's a very lonely sport.
And it can be a little selfish sometimes.
It's
too,
a very selfish sport.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
I need to go do this. I need to worry about my training, and I'm really very much focused on kind of what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
Both of our wives are saints for helping to support us, take care
100%.
of the house, take care of the families, take care of the dogs, while we go out and do these big long things. But I support her too. She's done her share of Ironmans too, where I'm at home I'm going grocery shopping, picking up dinner.
Yeah, speaking
cooking
of,
dinner,
your
that
wife
kind of
is
stuff.
going to be doing a 50K this Saturday or something like that?
Yep. So she's going to be pacing us, hopefully for the last 40 miles of Moab. So she's had some injuries that have kind of derailed her training a little bit, but yeah, she's going to go out and try to do a 50K this weekend to get ready for to help pace us at Moab.
That's awesome. So for those of you guys that don't know what 50K is, it's 32 miles, 32 miles, 33?
31.
31 miles. 31.
31 miles.
See, you're the detail guy.
One of us has to be.
Yeah, I guess. The details scare me, so I don't really focus on them.
Yeah, I think for me, the details keep me away from the scariness of the big events. I can focus on planning, so the big things don't seem as daunting because I've broken them down in maybe smaller steps.
Yeah.
Like training. Here, I have this today, and all I need to focus on is doing my 5 miles today.
Sure.
Tomorrow, I have no idea what I have tomorrow.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I remember doing. I did my first and only Ironman that I ever did, and doing the swim. There was a lot of firsts. I could go down this rabbit hole of like stupid shit that I've done that I didn't plan for, and just by sheer will just went and did it.
That's a whole couple of episodes.
Oh, that's a ton of like just everyone would be like shaking their head. They're like, "Oh my God, this guy." But in this case, on the swim, I just remember because I obviously can't see. I wear glasses, and when you're wearing goggles, it's really tough. But what I would do is I'd focus on, and this was in Tempe, so you're swimming in the Tempe lake or whatever it is. So there's buildings, and there's bridges that cross, and so I'd find one that I could see in the distance, and I'd swim to that point.
Yeah.
And what's funny about it, looking back at the GPS, it was like this sawtooth kind of thing, because my swim wasn't straight. So I ended up doing it tracked me doing like 3.4 miles instead of 2.4, just going back and correcting.
Jeez.
But the point is like I would focus on a point and I'd go there, and then I'd reevaluate and I'd focus on another point and I'd go there, and then the next point, and then before you know it, you're done, and you swam this crazy distance, and you're good. So it's like that's what's important. It's like taking that next step is the most important step.
Setting short goals, setting goals that are achievable, you build upon each other, right? If you started thinking about, oh my God, I've got 2.4 miles, I've got the entire day, then I've got to go do a 112-mile bike ride and then a full marathon.
Yeah.
It can get overwhelming pretty quickly for a lot of folks.
For sure.
Right? So just keep moving. And eventually you'll get there.
And I'm just going to say, put air in your tires. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say anything more. But if you are in an Ironman, inflate your tires properly.
Know your PSI.
Know your PSI. Exactly. So, what's the one thing that if anyone's listening to this thing that they're going to take away, what's the one thing that you want somebody to take away from this insight or this wisdom that you have? What's the one thing that you would tell anybody to?
Yeah, I don't know if it is anything special, but in my mind, it's just start where you are. I mean, don't worry about all the other things that are. I'm not going to phrase this right. Start where you are. Start where building those smaller habits, build those things that make you feel happy, that make you want to do more of that thing.
Yeah.
Small goals. Just move forward.
You know, what's funny about you saying that is recently I've just been telling people is create the habit of winning, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be big wins, it just has to be wins. And be the person that when you say something that you do it.
Yeah.
And more importantly, when you tell yourself that's what you're going to do it. Just because nobody else is around and you're not doing it for anyone else. Like we do so many things all the time for other people, right? Like I'm going to show up because I told so-and-so I was going to be there, so you show up for that person. Well, what if that person's not there? Are you going to show up for yourself?
Yeah.
You told yourself you were going to do it, so just do it. And show up for yourself. and then do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
It builds so much positivity in life and self-confidence.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be said for having good self-confidence and building good habits, one upon each other. And eventually you don't even recognize where you were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 5 years ago, or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And just starting, guys. And so many times we want to quit, but don't quit. Don't quit today, quit tomorrow. I've heard Jocko Willink say that. He's like, if you want to quit, that's fine, but don't quit today, quit tomorrow. And when tomorrow comes, don't quit tomorrow, quit the next day, right? Yeah. And it just creates that habit of winning, that you have that don't quit attitude, and it just builds from there. So little wins are important. Yep. So you don't have to go out and do a 100-mile race. Go out and walk to the end of the street for the first time, and go to the stop sign and come back. And then the next day, go run out to it. And the next day, go a little farther. Yep. But it's just incremental wins every single day, creating habits of winning versus habits of losing. Because guys, I'm going to tell you this right now, is if you don't do what you say you're going to do to yourself, you're going to create habits of losing. And you're going to lose, and you're going to lose, and you're going to lose, and you're going to create that. And then before you know it, you created a habit of losing everything that you do. Versus just doing what you said you're going to do. Do what you say and get it done. And when you do that, you're going to feel good about yourself, and you're going to go out and you're going to go try something different, and you're going to win, and you're going to start winning, and you're going to say, hey man, this feels really good. This feels really awesome.
And you're going to want more of that feeling.
And you're going to want more of that feeling and building on that.
Yeah.
If you go to the gym, go to the freaking gym. Show up. I don't care. There's a great book. It's called The Power, or it's Atomic Habits. And just creating the habit of going somewhere and doing something. Even if you don't work out, like show up to the gym. I actually did this the other day. I was running late. I had all these other things going on. And
You were late?
I was running way late because I had a bunch of stuff happen.
Surprise.
And thanks. And I get to the gym, and they're already halfway through the workout, and then I had to go to another thing right after. So I had my change of clothes with me. But I showed up to the gym, and I went through the motion of going because my car remembered where I was going, so it just goes. And I had to go, and I went, and I did the thing, and I felt good that I showed up. Yeah. And then I went to the next thing. I didn't necessarily feel good that I didn't get the workout in, but it's okay. Like sometimes you miss, you make mistakes.
Sometimes the hardest part is just getting out of the house.
Sometimes the hardest part is just
taking that first step.
Taking the first step, getting over there. Yep, for sure. All right, man. I appreciate you being here today. Are you excited? We got 2 weeks.
I am. I'm getting nervous, but yes, I'm excited. I think it's going to be amazing. What a great adventure.
I think we should do another podcast after we finish, so we could talk about all the crazy shit and how sick and tired you got of being with me for 5 days,
and vice versa.
So, in life, guys, you can do anything in this world, and I just want you guys to know that. Like, you may not have the confidence right now, you may not be in a place that you want to be in, but I can tell you one thing, that if you start and you go every single day, you will get there. And it's going to take time, it's going to take work, it's going to take consistency, but ultimately you can get there. And I want you to know that because it's so true, and it's not a lie, it's not bullshit, it's any of that stuff. Guys, you can do anything, but you got to put your mind to it and you got to commit to it. And I hope the one thing that everyone takes from this episode is that we're not special. Like, we're not, but we are consistent, and we show up and we show up and we show up and we keep trying, and we don't make excuses, and we just keep going out there and making it happen. So you guys, till the next one, thank you for joining us at the Ultra Everything podcast. Share and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you guys.